Hello again. We are now getting into part two of our series of five-part series of influencers, what they really want, and how to get unstuck. So, this part two, we are covering assessing the influencing power of a stakeholder. So, in other words, you're meeting someone, you're getting to know them. How do you assess what type of influencing power they have with their peers and those around them? And second, how do you have a conversation with a stakeholder to kind of understand that? What questions do you ask? Questions are so important. Really powerful questions can get you very far in understanding things of this nature because they're soft skills. And people also, when you ask questions about someone, people like to share with you about themselves. And so I think those are really important, transparent conversations. And how do you get to establish that? You'll also be able to, even if you've known people for years in your business, you'll be able to kind of pick things out about certain folks that make them more influential than others. So that's what this next section is about, is kind of digging into that. So now we're getting into, again, part two of a five-part series about influencing, what they want, and how to get unstuck. Enjoy. When we talk about types of stakeholders, we have a couple of different sorts. On the left side of the screen, you're going to see stakeholders that are really they're driven around initiatives for businesses, business ideas, and on the right, we're going to talk about small businesses and individual business owners. So if you are at a corporation or a mid-sized company, you're involved in projects, you're affected by a project. There's always projects going on nowadays with companies upgrading, updating, getting better, faster, quicker. Then you're going to really want to take a look at stakeholders that are executives, that are in the organization who are impacted by whatever change you're making. Also, those senior leaders who have teams that are impacted. And we also look at employees as stakeholders as well as managers. When you're managing stakeholders, though, and on a more individual, personalized level, you're probably not doing anything with the masses other than massive communications. Instead, you are really working with those leaders, and those leaders work with their employees. For the small business owner, there are many different networking opportunities that you have to build relationships with influencers also, and that's really important in small businesses. A lot of times you're going to find these opportunities going to chamber meetings or being part of a chamber. There's also your professional societies and associations that you're part of also. So when you think about your stakeholders, you really want to focus on people that you can network with, that can help you, that you can help them and work together to build each other's business. And a lot of times that happens in chambers, sometimes societies and sometimes associations, but you have to be careful, I think, with competition there. All right, so getting into the crux of how do you assess influencing power? Because remember, if you are influencing well, then you find other people who influence well, that is just going to exponentially grow and move your things forward. So how do you spot influencers? Well, there are a couple ways. All right. So when we take a look, for a project to be successful or an idea to move forward, you want to make sure your stakeholder has a high influence and a high interest in your project or your idea. So how do you discover that? Well, the first, to recognize this in others, you will notice people with the following characteristics that have a high influence. They're very visible or high performers, or both, visible and high performers. That's one of the characteristics. They're also really good communicators typically because they get people excited about things. They're good at communicating the essence of the change, how it will affect people. They get people excited. They tap into that emotion. They're also people that people go to them for advice. So, just talk to Joe. He's a good person to talk to because of X. He can give you some good input. Or Sally is a really good person to talk to about this. And so people go to those people for advice. So look for those types. They also get really excited when they're sharing ideas, and people just get excited with them because of the excitement that they exude. They use a lot of hand gestures when communicating. Not always, but people typically who are very outgoing and gregarious, very good influencers, they're using their hands and to show and to talk. All right, so that is how do you recognize some of the characteristics of high influencers. Next, we want to also look at high interest because you need both in what it is you want to move forward. So how you recognize someone with high interest is they're asking a lot of questions about your project or the change or your business. So they're very interested in what you do and they're interested in how it might impact them. So a lot of questions. They're also probably seeking out leaders who are involved in the project to discuss what's going on. So they're taking an active interest role in talking to leaders about the changes also. Many of them, I have found, will get even frustrated at not being in the know about what's happening with projects, or they'll be a little miffed because they weren't involved earlier. This is very common, and it's a good thing to have these folks because they are definitely interested in the project or in the idea, whatever's changing, right? They are also asked to get their team involved or volunteer. And what's really nice about this is people who are very interested and want to be part of a change, they will either volunteer themselves to help test a system or be a springboard for ideas or brainstorming, giving feedback loops. They'll volunteer to be part of these focus groups, etc. And those are folks that you really do value because they want to get involved. And then providing input into the project at every opportunity. So maybe as if you do have a big, large project, there are formal opportunities to give input and provide feedback. So they're jumping at a chance to do that and they're always showing up. So you have multiple examples here of what it looks to find someone with high influence and to be able to tap into that type of person. Also, what their high interest level, what that looks like too. So if you have both of these things happening and you see this, very, very important to tap into that person, build some coalition, build some, partnership, understand what it is about it that they like so that you can sell that better and you can do a better job yourself. Really exciting when you find this combination. And when you have stakeholders, not everybody's going to have this. You're just going to maybe find a handful that will be both interested highly and have great influencing skills to be able to propel you forward. So we talked about stakeholders. We talked about identifying those that have high influence and high interest and how to recognize that. And now we're going to talk about the interview. So when you're speaking with stakeholders and high influencers that are highly interested in your project or your idea or your business, you want to ask them some key questions because this course is about identifying them, how to get unstuck and what's interesting to them, what is of interest to them. So the interview is really important. It doesn't have to be, some of you will have worked with people for years and it's the formal interview. This is not what this is. These are questions to have and to ask with stakeholders that are participating in some way with a project or maybe your business. You want to get to know them better. So I'm going to adapt these questions to both the small business owner as well as working in a large corporation or a medium-sized business. But these questions will get underneath what's happening with an influencer or a stakeholder. And if you're stuck, you'll pretty much be able to discover why it is if you can get underneath it with these questions. Okay, so the first question is, what have you heard about the project so far? So medium to large size businesses, this gives you information about how well the project that you've been communicating the benefits of. So if people haven't heard about any of this, then that's a problem, right? You need to educate them a little bit around what you're doing and why you're doing it. So you really want to know what they know about it so far. Let them talk. And that's where you learn a lot about what they know about it so far. Now, if you're a networker, you're a small business owner and you're networking, and you're wanting to build relationships with people and some reciprocity, you want to understand what they know about your business. Ask them about, tell them a little bit about yourself and just say, hey, what do you know about my business? I would love to learn more about what others out there know. So that can help build that. It'll also tell you as a small business owner how well the name of your business, how well you describe it, if people really understand it and get it. Okay, second question. How do you see the project impacting your team? So medium to large size business, you're involved in projects. This question gets underneath how well have you kept them informed, and how you can uncover new impacts of the project that you didn't know about. I cannot tell you how many times we've been on projects where every project, you always have people pipe up that, oh wow, this change I think is going to affect us in this way, and the project team didn't even think about that. It happens all the time. So there are so many benefits to this type of an interview, to talk through some of that, because it ultimately gets them to be supportive of what you're doing, because you get underneath the impacts. You either are aware of them or you're not. You add to it. You ensure that you're going to care for those as you go down the path together. Third question, what are the biggest concerns you have that we should consider and address? So this gets underneath a few things, and this is a really powerful question. These types of things I capture in a meeting. I will capture the notes on by person, because as you ask this question specifically, it helps you address in the future when you talk to them opportunities to address those issues that they were concerned about all along the way. So that shows that you're caring for their concern by dealing with their concern in the project, making decisions that help that team. It also helps you as a small business owner, because if you ask questions about what opportunities do we have, maybe that we're missing, or have you heard anything, it'll get underneath kind of word on the street about your business too. So these are some of the different ways to really understand that. It also helps you to clarify if there's a misunderstanding, misconception about something right then and there. So that is the third question, and we're on to the fourth. Are there benefits for your team based on the program's goals? This is nice, because then you will know how they feel about the project. If they can't list a benefit about what you're working, what you're doing, then they don't understand exactly all the benefits that the project offers. Maybe if you're a small business owner, it's the same. If people don't understand the benefits that you drive and that you bring as a business and the values, then you're not communicating them enough. So these are the types of questions that get underneath the surface. And you want to capture these again. You never want to lose sight of these, because as you talk and meet and build relationship with these people that you're going to build relationship with, you'll be able to care for those very things. Like I said, you want to write it down. And what is most important to you regarding the changes this project will bring? So this will get underneath the motivation for them to want to support what you're doing. So this is where you can influence. Once you understand what's important to them, then you can communicate that and use that to influence them later, to continue to support them. And last, how would you like to be kept informed as the project progresses? So this becomes kind of your verbal contract. This is where they will tell you how often they want to be communicated with, what type of information is important to them, and it's up to you to get those scheduled. So you want to make sure that you ask this question, because it's giving you permission to engage them, and then making sure you follow up and do that each time. So the stakeholder interview can help you get unstuck, because it uncovers a lot of things here. These 6 questions get to so much. It also helps you to know for the future what you have to continue to address, and this builds trust. So this interview can really build trust as long as you follow up and do what you say you will do, and you will address their concerns along the way and solve problems with them.